Good evening, everyone. We'll call our Town of Windermere budget session meeting and order with legal reading of the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, sir.
And do we have any public comment? Thank you for the batteries. Did that, we'll move to
I did look at the material and the agenda. Right. I was very impressed with the detail and the quality of the preparation meeting. Hadn't seen it before, but I appreciate it. Frank Friends, 727 George Street.
thank you, Frank. This time, we'll look at new business. Item A is financial our presentation of the school budget 2020.
I'll give Travis. So Travis invited earlier, so. Yeah, this is my 11 to 12 budget for the Town of Windermere. It's getting a lot easier to do predictions because of the help that I have. Would be definitely remiss if I didn't acknowledge the recent there, they're here tonight. The finance director and finance clerk. With the retirement of more wife, that had to take over in probably the worst time that you can think of, especially during audit season. And they moved right into budget season. They did everything perfectly. They helped me a lot with giving me the documents and orders that I needed. And also were able to catch everything up for the mini report and the district report. So I didn't want to have it before I got started. I'll start every I can talk pretty loud, so hopefully you guys can hear me. As we do every year, we have a mission. It's always preserving the level of service and quality of life that the town residents and our customers are accustomed, all while maintaining the town's financial viability. And how do we get there? Conservative estimates of revenue, control spending, better planning. This year, we're adding two separate categories, and that's going to be state and federal appropriations and federal grants. Here you can see the years from 08 to 09, all the way to 23-24. You can see what our millage rate was. It was 3.228. When I came here, it was 3.7896. Then it was dropped down to 3.25, and then right in 2018-19 is when the town council increased the average home rate, and that was for a couple of things: preparing for the water supply plan, multimodal pack, and parks and recreation. So you see where the ad valorem revenue has increased over the last, I would say, since 2015, 2016. I always said that we did whatever we did, but we weren't really hugely negatively impacted by the pandemic, and that's because we really don't have that huge diversification of revenues or land uses. Here's how we compare with the rest of Orange County. You can see that we are the lowest in Orange County when it comes to ad valorem rates. And property, usually they were underneath because they have utilities and they help supplement their revenues from enterprise fund to general fund, but they have increased theirs to 4.1876, and that was last fiscal year. That does not include the MSTUs or the assessments that you see right here. You can see, you know, in comparison to our neighbors at Oakland 6.5, 4.5, and then Coe at 5.05, and then they still have garbage fires, stormwater assessment. So we're doing pretty good as far as making sure that every dollar is accounted for, and we're making sure that we're going out to other revenue sources to make sure that we can keep our average normal rate as it is. So the estimates of value that we received are just under $1 billion in tax value. And that is including all the, why am I blanking on this? The homestead exemptions. So you can have two, is up to $3,000. So in 2022, 2023, we're at 176,000, right at 6 million. We increased by about 78 million. So here's the way that we figured this out. You can maintain your existing millage rate, which would be 3.7425. You can go back to the rollback rate, which is going to be at around 3.4626. Or you can go to the maximum allowable rate, which would be about 3.7829 or 7892. Now these numbers have adjusted a little bit, but what the rollback rate is compared to maintaining existing. If you are to maintain the existing out of norm rate, that will be considered a tax increase. And the reason for that is because the rollback rate, you just bring in the exact same revenue as far as out of norm tax taken here. So the recommendation from staff is to maintain that 3.7425, even though it is going to be the same millage rate that you had in 5 or 6 years. It will be still considered a tax increase because it's over the roll. So again, how do we estimate revenues? We take a look at various factors. We've been very, very conservative with our estimates. For the last 10 years, what we've done is we've kept track of pretty much every single month, every single year, on what we've taken as far as revenues. We try to take out what anomalies are. Remember, a couple of years back, we had an anomaly with utility tax because we were underpaid for a little bit, and then we got overpaid. So that would start everything off. So we took that out to make sure that our numbers are pretty much static. Some people just use the CPI, but the best predictor of the future is looking at the past. So that's why we looked at the last 10 years to come up with somewhat of a median range. So we know what the max is, we know what the minimum is, and try to stay in that sweet spot in the middle. So when we come up here at April, when I'm telling you we have to make cuts, we have to save more money, or we have to look at different sources of income we're looking at for our reserves. Department revenue always is the last one to provide us with their estimates. When it comes to sales tax, gas tax, and so forth, that's nothing new, but typically they are actually around what we estimate it to be. They're actually over. So you hear see the local option gas tax pretty much stabilized over the last couple of years. I do anticipate this to go down over the next probably 10 years, and as part of being more gas efficient. You get more left in cars, this will go down. And that's why the county is looking at the half-cent sales tax or 1 cent sales tax, because they do see this dropping down as well. But we're not as heavily hit by them when it comes to that gas tax. Utility tax, again, is always increasing every day, announced today that they're increasing. The water, again, the new hookups that we have with Estancia and with all the new development, we're seeing that go up. If we do look at the possibility of receiving the annexation of Sean DeLock, they are all on potable water systems, and with the project for potable water system in central phase, that will go exponentially with increase. So any tax with the top of gas, communication service tax, a huge one. This is one that has been continuously attacked by lobbyists to take away from the municipalities. This is the one that is paying for your debt service for Main Street improvements. In order to take out a loan, you have to dedicate a certain revenue source. This is the one that is paying for that. Communications is pretty much, cell phones, internet service, and because everything has gone to streaming and all that stuff, that's why you're seeing a huge increase right now. When it was a huge uptake over here, you saw a decrease, then you saw the huge increase again with everybody going remote and utilizing all those different systems. Building permits have been stagnant for the last 2 years. Remember, whatever we receive, 80% of it goes out. So PES gets 80% of whatever we receive. So recent revenues, it's going to be 275,000. Our actual revenue is 20% of that, but it's money in, money out. Franchising is increasing. The absent sales tax has been really coming in strong. I think we're about $80,000 more than we anticipated last year. You know, this has been a blessing. You know, when we estimated last year, we underestimated, we utilized would have used our numbers. It was well over $500,000. So the estimates of revenue that we have again, with the ad valorem tax being the same as it was last year, we increased about $276,000. Utility tax going in about $40,000. Communication 35. Zoning and planning review. This is something I really have to thank Teresa and Tara on. You know, we sometimes see a huge deficit in this area. And the reason why is we weren't seeing anything but zeros. So we really didn't know when somebody pulled a permit and they had a review or inspection meeting when we would have to reimburse it. Now we have to solve every single permit that comes through to make sure that the deposits are being paid back to the town or the resident. So if there's overage, then they pay us. If there's under, then we pay. Code enforcement assessments, I keep that at 5,000 because everybody's been compliant, this is getting money out. You know, get the fence up for somebody's property and not mowing it, then you assess that property for that last fiscal year. But I'm not anticipating that's part of the zero out in the fiscal year. The Willows MSTU, that is for the lighting. I'll increase that just to match the numbers that we received today. Fire assessment, that's going to be increased as well as the numbers that are provided on your sheets. And the difference is whatever you pay to fire this year, the assessment is going to be about $846,000 that we're going to take in. The money that's over what we're paying, which is $800,000, has to go into a fire restricted reserve, only used for fire protection services and EMS. And what we're doing is not changing it this fiscal year because it's part of the agreement that we signed. We still have to buy a water. With the money that we currently have in the fire rescue reserves, with this money that we get this year, we'll not be able to pay that back. So we're not having to answer this and not having to adjust it or go up. And next year, I do believe that we'll be able to go to probably about 0.7. Revenue sharing, the state sharing, absent sales tax again, you know, that's always been increasing. But that is a conservative estimate based on what we received this past year. Police services, police opportunity, we're anticipating increasing that price to make sure it's more commensurate with Orange County. And then again, solid waste that reflects the pay request. A lot of people have been asking about HPP, tree board, parks and recreation, their revenues are going to be offset. So whatever they bring in, they're going to spend. Whether it's going to be that fiscal year or the ones who go to reserve that we know is going to be theirs to use for future stuff. So if the park and recreation wants to build a huge playground somewhere, they can save the money that they're going to be gaining from this fiscal year, put it in reserves, and then it's going to be business. Windermere 1 and 9, again, 2,000 bring in each year. Wastewater audits have been down, but I do believe that when Sean Block comes in, you know, we typically try to just utilize home businesses in our district and them. There'll be a couple other projects. Auction surplus. This one is high. The reason for that is we're selling big number. And what we're going to do is we're going to get another truck that does not require a CDL. Right now, it's very hard to get somebody into our public works program because that CDL requirement is just so hard to try to get somebody out of a different field that comes to us. So that's going to bring that. It's going to offset the amount of money that we're going to pay for that small dump truck, but that's why it's so large here. And as far as the ARPA funds, the American Recovery Act dollars, we're just reflecting the revenues that are left from the ARPA funds that will be utilized for central waterways. And also including in here the federal appropriations that we're receiving, the Safe Routes to Schools program. Now, are going to be allocating whatever use agreements we get consistently over each month. And also the big chunk of change that you see here, which is huge difference between last year and this year, is 1.5 for Windermere Road in Maine, and 1 million that we have for London Middle Path, 3.081 million for the water base, $375,000 for the state appropriation water study, wastewater study. And then we're rolling in $16,000 from the stormwater projects that you see in the stormwater budget to pay for the HMGP grants, which are stormwater related. So the highlights of the estimated revenues, again, the ARPA funds that we're going to actually have to spend this fiscal year. 10% of that actually can be used for roadways, which we recently found out. So we can use some of that as that matching for those HMGP grants. Then we have the state routes to school program, the building services, 80/20 split, rents. That can fluctuate depending on where we shut down town hall because we're doing rehab on it. But that is not a huge revenue source that's going to move the needle one way or the other. General revenues, stormwater revenues, and the local education keeping grants. We're still working on other grants, whether it be Lakes Advisory Committee, Healthy West Orange, and then state and federal grants that we're currently looking at. One of the state grants we're looking at is the town hall refurbishment. We're still working with Healthy West Orange on amending the billing agreement. And see if we can rope that into hopefully some other improvements in the town square. Auction surplus, there was some large state appropriations where I went through. And then many thanks to all the elected officials that helped us out. Congressman Val Dennings with 760, then State Senator Baxley, and then State Representative Carolina Ennis. We're able to get it to be about $6 million in the state. So the highlights of the expenditures, the 3 questions and answers. Highlights for the expenditures. Fire service fee limit sign is $800,000. The new interlocal, but that also includes EMS. So we've already sent notice to they're not AMR anymore. They are.
No, it is AMR, DB, yes, it's still AMR.
They changed. They
No, they're still DBAing.
So we already gave them notice that their contract expires September 30. The $216,000 that you currently pay for the Main Street loan debt, that final end is in October 1st, 2020. And what I was talking about earlier, where we got here, when we had the conversation with Sean Block yesterday last night, it was very close. So I do see that moving forward positive. If they do annex into the town of Windermere, looking at about $400,000 in additional taxable revenue. I tack that on with the $216,000 that you have in 2025. That's with the increase in property values, we're looking at almost close to $1 million. They can use for a lot of good projects in and around town. As you know, some water bays, water trail, $100,000. That's one of the things that we committed to in 2018, 2019. West Second Avenue, the water system, road and stormwater improvements, Bessie Basin, Butler Basin, the wastewater study, the historical rehabilitation of this building, Winter Road, Main Street intersection improvements. And then we're also starting to plan for the Town of Windermere Centennial celebration. That will be in 2020. 2025. So we're putting money away to start building out this getting that going. Legislative, which is new. We did increase the DC memorial. Reason for that is this March coming up is the 10-year anniversary of the end of Watch Oscar. So we're putting money away to offer to elected officials to come with us to DC and experience that memorial. It's a weekend. It's actually a Wednesday. Yeah, so it's something that you don't want to miss, and it's something that I think, especially the ones that are here during that time, definitely would be picking that truck up to DC for that. But if you increase it, you'll see a little bit of special events. But that is for the centennial celebration, 10-year anniversary of Robbie Jordan's and Wash. We increased the budget for the holiday hoopla. Windermere 1 and 9, 200 in, 200 out. And then we also increased the budget for Horse Appreciation Day. That is an event that is continuing to grow. Any questions on your? All right, administration. My budget. Pretty much everything is static. Health insurance, we're still negotiating. They pretty much don't give us an estimate until, I would say August, usually 60 days out. I'm assuming that it's gonna stay hopefully close to what it's at right now because of we've had a change of, I would say, in staff. So hopefully they'll either stay constant or we can get some better benefits for our employees, but I capped it out at 10,000. Legal fees have been increasing from 85 to 100. Boathouses, annexations. That's why I increased. Communication services. In the past, for communication services, that includes email, computer maintenance, server maintenance. Pretty much anything that has to do with IT is split up per department. So you can imagine how much of a nightmare it was for Teresa and Tara. Split up, okay, how many people, or how many board committee members we have as legislative. How many officers do we have as to be meeting that traffic, how many officers we have, and period, because there is not scratching out emails. But this is the number that we're at right now, and that includes the monthly maintenance. And we have included some big ticket items that will move everything from the server basis to the cloud system. Basically, again, we're looking at about maybe $7,000 increase, and the majority of that is the communication services.
Question on the health insurance, you said you paid 10,000 employees.
Yeah.
But is that the amount of insurance coverage they have? Because
No.
30,000.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on each.
Yeah, each department.
Okay,
Yeah, it's 10,000 annually.
that's right.
Um,
Communications, yeah.
That's the cap. So that gives me a ceiling to stay underneath.
Okay,
So if I need to increase the out of pocket, deductibles, the restriction plans, that keep underneath that.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, got it.
Again, all the communications, rights here from the outside department, and then salaries increase, COLA, that trickles down, FICA, bed, and time. Clerk, this is different from the presentation that's inside the agenda. The reason for that, for Tara pointing this out, is if you see the difference between 90,000, 81, 90.6, this difference in the agenda that was submitted to you guys shows about $2,000. The reason why is I didn't do my Excel spreadsheet. For some reason, I didn't take this, this, and this. It was between this and this. So now it's the same. But the number for the final number didn't change. So nothing changes. It was just a difference. So believe me, I had a little mini heart attack when she told me that, but this is the number that we used. Yeah. But yeah, the difference is $9,558.
I see, because that all added up.
Yeah.
Question, yes,
Again, finance, salaries, again, with the transition from Norway over to Greece and Tara, we saw the savings there, professional services. We're gonna see an increase in that. Our typical rate right now is about $20,000. I'm assuming we're gonna have to do a special audit because of the ARPA funds, because of all the grants that we have coming. That's gonna cost some additional monies. Fire restricted reserve, and this is gonna go up to about, I'd say another $40,000. But remember, all of this will go towards that water tank.
Is that a new water tanker or is it staying on the water tanker
That one's already paid off. So we're gonna be looking at room for a new.
that would be two.
There'll be 2 water tankers, but the one that we gave them back in, I forget,
Yeah.
2008, 2009. So now they're looking for a new one. They put off charging us this year for it because they can get 5 for this year. So it's next fiscal.
Boss, can I make a correction to that?
Sure.
So they removed it out of the first term of the agreement. So the water tank's completely out of that. We won't face that charge until after year 3. When we go to negotiate with them again, after year 3,
Okay.
they may add it back in then.
Either way, we'll have the capital. So the minute I get it, I'll just go and buy it. So we get that contract out of the way. General insurance, we've seen that increase over the years. So the reason went from 80 to 165 is because I think the workers' comp wasn't included in this general insurance, then it was included, but we've seen an, I think it's like 15% increase over the last year. So that was a huge hit to us when it comes out of finance. Tuition reimbursement is something that is an added bonus to our employees. So we see everybody utilize it every year. But again, the fire reserve will fund new fire service agreements. You have the new tanker, and it also can create a stopgap. Let's say that we annex in Chandelier. We can use that reserve to pay for the fire services if it's going to increase. If we annex them in, it's 71 homes. Don't believe it should, but it can cover that stopgap. General insurance increased. We went cashless, so again, our credit card swipe lease has increased. But again, you see a huge decrease, and that's because the fire service agreement and the fire reserve of that $50,000. That'll actually probably zero out if we're to add the new numbers. Development services, again, wage trend, planning consulting, portion of the work paid out by zoning deposits. You know, what we bring in is not necessarily what we're going to spend, but by having wage trim as our planner, as opposed to having an internal planner here, that is self-savings money. And plus they have various disciplines, so we're not having to have a full-time staff here. A stormwater engineer, a planner, getting GIS, getting the map, printers, all that stuff. So we are seeing savings. Then the building inspection fees, this is 20% or 80% of the 275. And so it comes out to about $320,000. Public works. Salaries again have increased. We're trying to keep at the same rate of pay as other local jurisdictions. As you know, it's very hard to get good up these days, especially with the amount of people that are looking. We still have an open position in public works, and Johnny can probably back me up on this. It's been very hard to find replacement because that industry is so everybody's hiring it. Same thing you go for the CDLs, for truck driving, for bus drivers, all sorts of stuff.
No, we don't need that.
Right.
No. Professional services, we increased this, and this has to do with the planning and the engineering for all education grants. And then here for the streets and roads CIPs, it includes the I have a breakdown, if you guys want to see it. Money that we have to match for those HMP grants. And then here you can see the multimodal path. We're hoping it comes in 1.95. I think Mike is going to come out 2.25. But hopefully we can leverage other dollars to make sure that we're staying at around that amount. And the American Recovery Act, we're going to use the focus for this. HMP grants and projects. So the big highlights is purchase a smaller truck. We actually hired a full-time administrative assistant that's taking a lot of workload off of PD and town admin. She is taking care of pretty much all the stuff that Tanya had to do with, Travis has to do with. And you would think, okay, well, why this public works needs somebody out there? They definitely need to be out there to do all the reps, do all the the meetings set up, get all the paperwork. She does the boat passes, she does the tennis court fees. So it took a lot off of that. What's that? 5 hours. Professional services, again, that includes the in-house associates or miscellaneous, that includes the project meetings, anything else that we do on it. Floor engineering, jobs given, general engineering, janitorial, lawn maintenance, lakefront maintenance, pest control. With the lakefront maintenance, again, when Scott pulled that permit a couple of years ago, I believe he promised to do some plantings that were never done. So now we're having David Piper to make sure that we pay for those plantings. And that was worth it.
Yes.
Yes. Projects again, West Second Avenue, Bessie Basin, Muller Basin, Winter Road, main intersection, Town Hall, wastewater study, and the work based. And all the money that you saw in here and here, pay for those numbers. Police department. One of the big things, you see the huge salary increase here. We haven't looked at these salaries and how we compare to other municipalities in this area for 5 years. I included Chief Ogden's study in the packet. We can see where we compare. You know, do we want to be at the low end, the medium end? I think we're like the medium high end. But that reflects on the quality of officers that we get. And also, so that's where we believe that we could stay. Number one, keep who we have, and number two, stay competitive with patients. So I had no issues with increasing that pay based on chief studies and also, you know, making sure that we're still in the market or comparable to those surrounding areas. Police off duty, again, we increased that because we're going to look at an increase in those fees. Overtime I put down because we're seeing a lot more getting conserve hours, not a lot of overtime hours. And the trickle down effect was like a med in retirement. Fire service agreement, you see it went from 682 on 7 last year, it's $800,000 that comes out of police department. Communications, that went up because the dispatch went up this last fiscal year for kindergarten, remember those of dispatching. We'll see it probably a 5% increase each and every year.
As a reminder, we're still probably $100,000 in savings from being from the sheriff's office. And that's without report writing software, which is an additional $25,000 a year. So we chose to go away from them several years ago.
So again, we sit over here, as far as the $360,000 increase, remember the majority of that is making sure we're paying officers. What is the standard in this area? Incentive pay is if you're working nights, you get an extra on the day, then we get in daytime. Shift different, that's shift different. Incentive pay
by the state.
Certifications that are for state, especially that you have to pay officer, use car, stuff like that. That's shift different.
Shift difference is different. So shift differential is for night shift. They get paid an additional $1.50 an hour. Incentive pay is mandated by Florida statute by the state. So officer goes, becomes a firearms instructor, driving instructor, all those different things that we need to have. They can get an accumulative number, actually get it for a degree. So they can get $20, $30, and it adds up to a maximum amount of $120 a month. So again, state mandated.
So I have backwards.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the increase in salary, but I'm just curious. There's other cities that you've listed here and making 10,000 or so less than ours will be making. Is there like a hazard pay though? I mean, some of these areas are a lot more dangerous.
Well, there's no such thing as a state hazard pay. As you can see, we're
You want to work there, if you come here and make more money.
Overtime, opportunities. That's huge.
Huge.
You know, with Orange County, you have the gates are open on how much you can make per year, as long as you do it. Here, it's hard for us to do a lot of those. Unless they're needing somebody as far as support for camping with stadium, UCF games, stuff like that. That's where we actually are able to help them. But like OCSO, and some of the other areas, you know, they're able to get that extra time and extra money coming in. But you can see where we were at right here prior to with the increase, we're pretty much at a minimum. Yeah, it depends on, you know, when you're young, a lot of them want to go for the home. You know, from here, it's a little bit different. It's an adjustment, a little more community oriented.
Right.
Windows down, talking to people, knowing your neighbors, stuff like that. But yeah, once they get out of the academy, for some reason, they just want to jump in and
What the thrill.
keep going until the rhythm sorts out. I think we're at a good level here, not only because of who we are, but also, we pay well, we feed well, and also we're not at levels. Because if you are an FRS, we did that pension rate drop. You're having to look for other opportunities that are not with FRS or retirement system.
Yeah, she said lower. We've gone from the lower end to the upper end now, but in 5 years. It'll be right back there. So it's kind of-
We tend not to change this that often.
And I don't have a problem with it, I'm just kind of surprised. That the rest on there too. Or high.
Well, those are not only, I mean, items that I've researched the entire time, but I've contacted personally each and every one of those. So you see on there what they anticipate. Some of them saying we're not sure if we're gonna get it, just like we're in a budget here and now. Some of these are under contract, so they're actually already contracts, so they know for the next 3 years, like OPD. Next 3 years, they know they're gonna get 4%, 5%, that's already kind of done, set into the budget. So it's kind of hard to compare some of those. So if we go right to that salary, yes, within that year, probably we're gonna bump back down right to the middle range.
Typically what happens in these scenarios, you start to lose people. And that's how you go, like, oh, we better adjust our salary, we can see your plan for training, all of this. We keep our officers. Make sure that they're getting up, ready to rock and roll.
And we've done, I think it's panned out. Listen, we are the only agency still for the last couple of years that are 100% fully staffed. Even last year, when we had 2 retirements, we did have somebody leave. Within 6 months, we were fully staffed. There is not an agency in Central Florida that is fully staffed. They can't find people. So, yeah.
The bit you do increase, you create pressure issues.
Yeah.
And then you have to increase. Gradually up the ladder to make sure that, okay, well, if somebody's starting today and then they're making the same as the person been here for 8 years, you gotta make sure that you're taking care of that person.
And just as a point of order, that we did the starting salary, like Mr. Smith said, we did the compression issues, but we actually established a step plan that is in perpetuity. So, when it's time for me to go move out of here and it's time for you guys to say, hey, it's time for another bottom number, all you do is move it up to step 5 or whatever, and you just continue to go. That's been my goal for about 4 or 5 years. We just haven't been able to get there. So right now, sometimes it's kind of a little bit strange how with somebody with experience, that kind of Robert allows me to put them in this category, that category, but the numbers were starting to get all over the place. Now, if you come with as an experienced officer from New York City with 25 years, I can put you in a step 5. And you will just continue to go. So whoever's here from the future on, that system is set and established. It should never have to change.
Yes. Tom's not able to hear you, so
Oh,
try to be about it in mind as much as possible. And the salary increase and the compression issues were resolved. We're looking at the purchase of one more vehicle, and this can get us exactly where we need to be. The dummy part that you see out there right now, we pretty much have to push it instantly wherever we need to go.
So we're getting rid of it, right?
Yeah, that'll be next on the list.
We'll look at the increase in opportunity pay. We again are continuing to make sure that we're maintaining our accreditation. So we still have an accreditation manager, which is Deputy Chief Treadwell, retired. Again, the fire rescue fee increase, regard dispatch increase, 365, South Florida, bigger hit on last year. Either charges last year, but
We're going to a whole new report, right? No, whole new software system. Remember, we were under Winter Garden, so we have to kind of jump aboard with that. I'll give you an update at that town council.
yeah. We had these stuff back in May, so remember a lot of these we had this budget, but I remember that 365 had to be the software program that we had to get for the murder dispatches. They're going to increase the 10-year and block anniversary for all. Code enforcement, that seems to decrease every single year. The reason for that is people becoming more compliant, which means we have a good system. Again, code enforcement is not punished, it's bring people back into compliance. Yeah, I think we've had maybe one year in this entire.
So does our code officer, oh, that's the main.
Yeah, that's great, so.
That's not the magistrate, okay, got it.
So her salary, she usually goes up, and then he usually goes down, I think that's the same right now. For the compliance actions that would offset the revenue that we get from compliance actions in the revenue section.
So he isn't that retained here, it's an us.
It's an hourly rate. Again, the working committees, whatever they bring in, is what they're gonna spend. I did talk to Liz Ander, and she is going to try to, rehab and restart the ways committee. So I did put $1,500 in there this year. Stormwater. So, Windermere activities. So. And that was one thing that I talked to Sean about last night, you know. During the probably started this pandemic back, and it was really hard to get. Not only them scheduled because of their activities, but just getting them to speak up and get really initiative, getting motivated to do stuff. But Liz, she can let fire anyway. So, and we're gonna have speakers, we're gonna probably do tours, like we do C meeting, our meeting, just so they learn about community service and politics. And they can get community service hours for that. So, stormwater. Professional services. Either way,
That's that same formula.
yeah, same board, got to reduce it. This is, again, the total amount that we have is not going to change to the 344.77. This is what more of the assessments are. The stormwater project cost, that is right here, we're going to be transferring that over to general fund. And that will be the sports and HCP grants. And we're still working with Full Chain with Supervisor Committee on updating the town's stormwater master plan. And that may have to adjust once we finish that stormwater master plan in the assessments for 24-25. So, you know, I just read over a manual that Mike Laura got at his last conference, and it shows they call it a utility, not an assessment, but we're really low compared to other municipalities that are having to take care of the stormwater system. And again, professional services include all this, and then we're selling the dump truck and purchasing a smaller truck. Now we're going to rental lease. So, yes. Yeah, with this one, the KJ miscellaneous, we split that in half. It's going to be usually it's $10,000. It's for ongoing IPO. Well, I'll split that 50-50. And then the same thing with Laura, if it's not something that is tied to a project, we split it 50-50. And the same thing with John's generally. But MBE compliance, we really don't have much. I mean, this was I think we're going to next fiscal year. So revenues over expenditures. You can see here that it's a huge jump from last fiscal year again because of the amount of money that we're getting from state appropriations. Now, are we going to spend this entire amount this next fiscal year? Probably not. With the way right now it's state appropriation budget was through before July, and you've only received 2 notifications, and that has to do with FEP on state appropriation. FDOT took them 6 months to get us the paperwork for conversations about the 760 from the feds 6 months into the fiscal year. So I'm assuming they're on the same time frame for the $1 million and the 1.5 for the Windermere Road and Main Street. So, you know, when we have this number here, we're anticipating reserves, the reserve amount that is probably more your packets, but we're anticipating that going into that fiscal year, but we didn't spend it this year, so it's going to go to this year to pay for those HMGP grant projects, but this also included the projects with the state appropriations. But you can see we're gonna have to dip into our reserves by about $250,000. Compare that to last year, where I think it was around, it's just about $300,000. So as far as reserves, you're still gonna be at that 20 to 25% based on the normal budget. So you're between, I think it was 1.2 and 4 million. When it came to reserve in that base, or your the Irmas and Ians to make sure you can build that gap before you get the reimbursement. So we've always been at around 20-25%. If you go over that, then you have to look at lowering village rate, or spending that money because again, that's other restriction. It's hard for us to spend money spend money without saving it because of that 12.5% restriction. Question.
Good presentation.
Appreciate it. I've loved it up.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody's efforts on this, so staff, council roads, salary. As well, and you better. I remember 10 years ago, maybe it's. Where pencil gets expensive. Remember that conversation?
Councilmember Gonzalez, very clearly.
Well, we may not be quite there. We may be close. Any additional questions, Tom? Just for the one sick requirements, wasn't any problem with this. When I consider that.
Yeah. We can, and that would come out of legislative, and that's, coming back to it, but that was typically what it was taken out of.
It's just not that nothing's included, so like, pose the question. Could that be raised?
Oh, we're in that bad spot.
First of all, that's not something you probably go out on our own. You probably get into municipalities that are not like it. For that year for legal or from real estate section.
Again, it wasn't anything in the budget line, maybe something.
It's funny, we used to. And we had years where we did really well, but not a year we didn't well this year, so break down.
I think they pull it out of reserves if there's a movement in that direction, because it's gonna take more than this.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to pose the questions. It's easy to do that if you're going to retain someone.
This is what's going out from our view, we could probably utilize very well, and there, just so a state degree that it's doing legal services contract, and then we can just take that out of legal services. And then if it's over 10,000, it's you guys for approval of that, it's under 10,000, we just take. So the four legal cities, tri-county legal cities, legal counties, we're trying to figure out who's going to be the first ones to step up and project this. I think it's the last ones. So if there's no additional questions, Mayor, I did provide you with the updated motions that we can recognize. And just for educational purposes, once you set 317.425, you can't go higher.
Right. And more than you do it. And you really, from the day I started that, and now, that's what I've done. I will make a motion to tentatively adopt the proposed millage rate of 3.7425 units per thousand.
Motion by Councilperson Brinson for a second. Second, Councilperson Williams. Any comments, questions, or concerns? In the room, Councilperson Williams. Aye. Item number 1, carries unanimously.
Item number 2, motion to consent to balance proposed budget revenue $16,383,474.09. Expenditures. $16,383,474.09. I'll second.
Concerns? See none, we get that.
Aye.
Item 2, carries unanimously. Where's the rates? You're doing a great job.
Motion to set date, time, and place of budget hearings, September 6th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Tentative budget hearing, September 18th, 2023, 6 p.m. Final budget.
Motion by Councilperson Grace, second. David. Council, will begin with. Aye.
Aye.
Item number 3, carries unanimously.
Item number 4, motion to approve solid waste assessment of $389,962.05.
Motion by Councilperson Rose, second, Councilperson Davenport. Questions, comments, or concerns, council? Seeing none, we go to Councilperson Rose.
Aye.
Item 4, carries unanimously.
Item 5, motion to approve stormwater fund assessment roll at $344,137.80.
Motion by Councilperson Rose. Second, Councilperson David. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, begin to go to Councilperson Rose.
Aye.
Item 5, carries unanimously.
Item 6, motion to approve fire assessment, $847,340.90.
Motion by Councilperson Rose.
Second.
Second, Councilperson David. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, begin to vote in the Councilperson Davenport.
Aye.
Item 6, carries unanimously.
Really quick before it gets to Willow's like assessment, it did increase. We did have sent out notices, so we can tentatively approve this number. We have a public hearing on September 6th to actually approve this. But we need them to send it over to the tax collector. This is the number that we have. Just pay for the street light.
So tentative, yeah. Item 7, it's Willow Street tentative light assessment. $16,822.08.
Motion by Councilperson Rose.
Second.
Second, Councilperson David. Questions, comments, or concerns, council? Seeing none. Whoops, sorry.
So, Robert, do you know how much that is? And should we pass a not to exceed number at this point? Or is
This is the exact number that's going to be out there, but you have to afford them a hearing to object to that number.
Okay.
So that's why we're tentatively approving this as part of it.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and begin voting. Aye. Item number 7, carries unanimously. Thank you, de facto Mayor Rose. I appreciate that. You did a great job. We're gonna have to do this one more time. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, again, for all your efforts on this. That's the biggest budget we've ever passed. History of that.
And if there's no additional items, we can go ahead and cancel the second workshop.
Okay, we need a motion to cancel the second workshop.
No, it's not needed.
Not needed. So we can cancel our second workshop. And if there is no other items.
For 6, I will not be in town, so make sure you have one.
It's actually on the top.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did.
No, there will. I'm sorry.
So it's like, well, I looked at the first, hearing, not the second. It's a town council meeting actually as well. Not hearing.
Okay, I'll be here on this vote, but for this tentative budget hearing on September 6th.
So who's gonna make the motions?
More concerned about having enough people to vote on that, because I'm not sure of the time.
For our longer meetings, we try to gather.
Any additional reports or anything speak about before we close? Anything else you're good to hear before the adjournment? 6:57 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Good job, Tony.
Thank you.